Good evening, beautiful people of planet Earth. I'm back for part 4, which this should be quite a short video since there's only about 6 pages, so I perceive about 30 minutes of the story left. But we had to break it up because I had my therapy session today. So I'm back. It's currently 6:12 p.m. on the 22nd of January 2025, and it's currently 32 degrees Celsius at 6:12 p.m. and there's a rather intense storm brewing or building out coming in from the south, so that should be interesting. Might cool the air a bit, at least enough for us to get through tomorrow. And my eyes are sore. I get really bad heat exhaustion, but I'm not the only one. Everyone in Brisbane or Queensland or indeed the whole of Australia is affected by this heat. I'm told Perth had 45 degrees today. Birdsville, which is some country town way out, not even sure where exactly, out west, somewhere in Queensland, was predicted for 47 today. So to you, my darlings, that would have been intense. And here we are, summer in Australia, and we just have to carry on being awesome. So we paused at the end of part 3 after reading some couplets that Naomi had written for him, I believe. Yes, Naomi had written to Nehemiah. And I won't read those again. That's what I ended video part 3 on. So we'll carry on from there. When Nehemiah read these verses, his eyes ran over with tears, and the old woman said to him, "What maketh thee to weep, O my son? Allah never caused thine eye to shed tears." Cried the Persian, "O my lady, how should my son not weep, seeing that this is his slave girl and he her lord, Nehemiah son of Al-Rabi'a of Kufa, and her health depended on her seeing him, for naught aileth her but loving him, love sickness." It's a real phenomenon, people of earth. "So do thou, O my lady, take these 1,000 dinars to thyself, and thou shalt have of me yet more than this. Only look on us with eyes of rush." Did they mean rush, or did they mean Ruth, which Ruth means compassion? Is it a typo? I may never know. It's going to grind my gears. I won't sleep tonight for not knowing. I think they meant eyes of Ruth. We'll just go with that. Rushing eyes. Oh dear goodness. But anyway, we see them here, we see them there, we see them everywhere. My eyes are spinning at the thought. Just wait a minute. Calm your tiny arms. Calm your fucking farm. I'm sure it's a typo. But what if it isn't? What if they really meant eyes of rush? No, carry on. "For we know not how to bring this affair to a happy end, save through thee." Never mind. Then she said to Nehemiah, "Say, art thou indeed her lord?" He replied, "Yes." And she rejoined, "Thou sayest sooth, for she ceasest not continually to name thee." Then he told her Sometimes I feel like Odysseus strapped to the mast where he's blindfolded and got plugs in his ears so he can't hear the sirens of the subterranean depths calling him to his watery death, or depths of death, or death defying, but there's no death defying when you're called down by the sirens because they've got you, baby. But sometimes I just keep having that image of me being strapped to a mast, being held very precious and contained, and saying, forge ahead, look neither left, look neither right, just stay the course, babies. But I'm not Odysseus. I also happen to be a woman, so there is that. What would Boadicea do? Let's not think about that either, because we're in polite contemporary society. Let's just keep reading the story. I might read a story about Boadicea next. She's one of my favourite muses, one of my favourite archetypes that I've embraced into my psychological armouring of protection and, archetypical, almost mythological power base. But she was a real person, actually, Boadicea. She wasn't. Was Odysseus or Ulysses a real person? Homer wrote about him. Maybe he was a real person at some stage, but I know for a fact that Boadicea was real. Yes. Maybe I'll change my name to Boadicea. Oh, wouldn't people freak out if I did that? They'd be like, look out, Boadicea's coming. And Bobo's like, but I'm in heaven, Mama. Imagine if I had a dog named Beauregard. Boadicea and Beauregard are on their way. Everyone look busy. Oh, it was a bit like that sometimes, because he used to snarl at all the other dogs. He was a warrior dog god, my doggy. A true Viking dog. Anyway, where were we? Say, art thou indeed her lord? And he replied, yes. And she rejoined, thou sayest sooth, for she ceaseth not continually to name thee. Then he told her all that had passed from first to last, and she said, O youth, thou shalt owe thy reunion with her to none but myself. So she mounted, and at once returning to Naomi, looked in her face and laughed, saying, it is just, O my daughter, that thou weep and fall sick for thy separation from thy master Ni'amah, son of Al-Rabi'a of Kufa. Quoth Naomi, verily, the veil hath been withdrawn for thee, and the truth revealed to thee. Rejoined the old woman, be of good cheer, and take heart, for I will assuredly bring you together, though it cost me my life. Can you trust the bitch after what she did to them, being party to their separation? Wouldn't trust her as far as I could throw her, personally. Once a snake, always a snake. Remember that, people of Earth. Snakes are very good at luring you back in and getting into a false sense of security before they bite you again, because can't help themselves. See also the story of the lady and the snake. Anyway, I have beautiful people in my life now, all of whom I deeply value and am extremely grateful for, and who I fight to keep in my life. I might throw my occasional wobblies every now and then, but by and large I fight to keep you in my life. If I deem you worthy of my time and my heart and my soul and my words and my energy, then I will fight to keep you in my life. If you fight to keep me in yours. Hopefully we don't have to fight though. Hopefully it's just a gentle, sweet knowing and flowing and acceptance and welcoming and inclusion, and continues in that vein. True love is not for sissies, and true friendships are nourished and protected too. Then she returned to Niamah and said to him, I went to thy slave girl and conversed with her, and I find that she longeth for thee yet more than thou for her. For although the commander of the faithful is minded to become intimate with her, she refused herself to him. Thank the gods she did. But if thou be stout of purpose and firm of heart, I will bring you together and venture my life for you, and play some trick and make shift to carry thee into the Caliph's palace, where thou shalt meet her, for she cannot come forth. And Niamah answered, Allah requite thee with good. Then she took leave of him and went back to Naomi and said, Thy Lord is indeed dying of love for thee, and would fain see thee and foregather with thee. What sayest thou? Naomi replied, And I too am longing for his sight and dying for his love. Whereupon the old woman took a parcel of women's clothes and ornaments, and, repairing to Niamah, said to him, Come with me into some place apart. So he brought her into the room behind the shop, where she stained his hands and decked his wrists and plaited his hands. I think by stained they meant put henna on his hands. Although, do men normally wear henna? I don't think they do. I think it's only women that wear henna. Well, I'm not sure now. Anyway, stained his hands and decked his wrist, I presume, with bracelets of some kind. God, that's young Harrison. My God. Hardly recognised him. Who's that young man walking down there? Oh, well, I remember him when he was only 13. Now he looks like a young lad of about 18, 19. That would be right too. Oh, the years have flown past. I'm getting older. I'm just sitting here, and the only way I can mark time, apart from my own wrinkles, is seeing how the children are sprouting into young adulthood. Wow. It's astonishing, people of Earth. Just astonishing. After which she clad him in a slave girl's habit. Oh, so that's why she put henna on his hands, to try and pass him off as a girl. And adorned him after the fairest fashion of woman's adornment, till he was as one of the Huris of the garden of heaven. And when she saw him thus, she exclaimed, Blessed be Allah, best of creators. By Allah, thou art handsomer than the damsel. Now walk with thy left shoulder forwards, and thy right well behind. What? Why would you do that? Left shoulder forwards, right. And sway your hips from side to side. How does that work? That seems very ungainly. But anyway, it's their fairy story, not mine. So, I mean, you have to laugh. So he walked before her as she bade him, and when she saw he had caught the trick of woman's gait, we don't walk like that, with one shoulder forward and one shoulder behind, or do we? I kind of do this weird old lady shuffle now, which is, I saw it on a video recently, and I was like, oh dear goddess, oh that's awful. I shuffle along. I look exactly like my mother at my age. Oh, I had to vomit in my mouth a little bit. I was like, I'm turning into Gisela, but I'm still not an evil bitch like she was. Maybe I am. I don't know. But anyway, I haven't completely become my mother Gisela, just say. Holding on to some fucking ethics and morals. Barely. Babies. But anyway. Yes, she had this way of kind of hunching over, and I do it now. So I must remember to, keep the shoulders back and the head high and the boobs out and walk with both shoulders, not one shoulder. I mean, if you walk like that with one shoulder forward, you look like fucking Quasimodo, wouldn't you? Maybe that was the fashion back in the day, to walk like Quasimodo. I don't know, I wasn't there. But we're there now. When she saw him thus, she exclaimed, oh no, we read that. So he walked before her as she bade him, and when he saw he had caught the trick of woman's gait, she said to him, expect me tomorrow night, and Allah willing, I will take and carry thee to the palace. And when thou seest the chamberlains and the eunuchs, be bold and bow thy head and speak not with any, for I will prevent their speech, and with Allah is success. How's she going to prevent their speech? Don't know. Accordingly, when the morning dawned, she returned, and, carrying him to the palace, entered before him, and he after her, step by step. The chamberlain would have stopped his entering, but the old woman said to him, O most ill-omened of slaves, this is the handmaid of Naomi, the Caliph's favourite. How durst thou stay her when she would enter? Chutzpah is everything, people. Sometimes you've just got to be cheeky. Then said she, come in, O damsel. And the old woman went in, and they ceased not faring on, till they drew near the door leading to the inner piazza of the palace, when she said to him, O Ni'amah, hearten thyself, and take courage, and enter. I saw someone walking past, but no. And take courage and enter, and turn to the left. Then count 5 doors, and pass through the 6th, for it is that of the place prepared for thee. Fear nothing, and if any speak to thee, answer not, neither stop. Then she went up with him to the door, and the chamberlain, there on guard, accosted her, saying, What damsel is this? Quoth the ancient dame, Our Lady hath a mind to buy her. And he rejoined, None may enter save by leave of the Commander of the Faithful. So do thou go back with her. I cannot let her pass, for thus am I commanded. Replied the old woman, O chief chamberlain, use thy reason. Thou knowest that Naomi, the Caliph's slave girl, of whom he is enamoured, is but now restored to health, and the Commander of the Faithful hardly yet crediteth her recovery. She is minded to buy this handmaid, so oppose thou not her entrance, lest haply it come to Naomi's knowledge, and she be wroth with thee, and suffer a relapse, and this cause thy head to be cut off. which was a very real threat in those days, since they all ran around with swords and daggers and all sorts of weaponry, and just apropos of nothing, sometimes just cut off your head. Wouldn't have been a very nice way to live though, would it? Constantly walking around, wondering how long you were going to keep your head on. Just saying. Anyway, then said she to Niamh, enter, O damsel. I suppose in today's world we have to worry about nuclear holocaust, climate change, strange worms coming out of the permafrost and staying alive long enough to breed. What was the other thing we have to worry about? Oh yes, alien invasions in the form of drones and weird egg-shaped craft being, retrieved. I'm not worried about that somehow. I probably should be, but I'm not. I'm more worried about what human beings are capable of doing to each other on a daily basis. That's without having swords in our hands. But think happy thoughts, Tanya Arabs. Think happy thoughts. There's a kookaburra on the line and a little Indian miner teasing him along because he can. And the kookaburra's just sitting there going, fuck off, Indian miner. And the Indian miner is just fucked off for a distance of about 20 feet, but is now slowly edging forwards just to piss off the kookaburra. A bit like my Friday night last weekend, wasn't it? But Cookie's taken back control. Has removed himself from the power lines and gone about his business. Anyway, then said she to Niamh, enter, O damsel, pay no heed to what he saith, and tell not the queen consort that her chamberlain opposed thine entrance. So Niamh bowed his head and entered the palace, and would have turned to the left, but mistook the direction and walked to his right, and meaning to count 5 doors and enter the 6th, he counted 6 and entered the 7th, found himself in a place whose floor was carpeted with brocade and whose walls were hung with curtains of gold embroidered silk. Oh, that sounds very lovely. And therein stood censers of aloes wood and ambergris, and strong scented musk. And at the upper end was a couch bespread with cloth of gold, on which he seated himself, marvelling at the magnificence he saw, and knowing not what was written for him in the secret purpose. Whenever they say that, you know it's going to go bad because it's his destiny. Let's hold our breath. As he sat musing on his case, the Caliph's sister, followed by her handmaid, came in upon him, and seeing the youth seated there, took him for a slave girl, and accosted him and said, Who art thou, O damsel, and what is thy case, and who brought thee hither? He made no reply, and was silent. When she continued, O damsel, if thou be one of my brother's concubines, and he be wroth with thee, I will intercede with him for thee, and get thee grace. But he answered her not a word. So she said to her slave girl, Stand at the door and let none enter. Then she went up to Niamh, and looking at him, was amazed at his beauty, and said to him, O lady, tell me who thou art and what is thy name, and how thou camest here, for I have never seen thee in our palace. Still he answered not, whereat she was angered, and putting her hand to his bosom, found no breasts, and would have unveiled him, that she might know who he was. But he said to her, O my lady, I am thy slave, and I cast myself on thy protection. Do thou protect me? She said, No harm shall come to thee, but tell me who thou art and who brought thee into this, my apartment. It's a reasonable question to ask, I guess. I'd want to know who he was. Answered he, O princess, I am known as Ni'amah bin al-Rabi'a of Kufa, and I have ventured my life for the sake of my slave girl, Naomi, whom al-Hajjaj took by sleight and sent hither. Said she, Fear not, no harm shall befall thee. Then, calling her maid, she said to her, Go to Naomi's chamber and send her to me. Meanwhile, the old woman went to Naomi's bedroom and said to her, Hath thy lord come to thee? No, by Allah, answered Naomi. And the other said, Belike he hath gone astray and entered some chamber other than thine, and lost himself. So Naomi cried, There is no majesty, and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great. Our last hour is come, and we are all lost. And while they were sitting, sadly enough, pondering their case, in came the princess's handmaid, and saluting Naomi, said to her, My lady biddeth thee to her banquet. I hear and I obey, answered the damsel. And the old woman said, Belike thy lord is with the Caliph's sister, and the veil of secrecy has been rent. So Naomi at once sprang up and betook herself to the princess, who said to her, Here is thy lord sitting with me. It seemeth he hath mistaken the place, but, please Allah, neither thou nor he has any cause for fear. When Naomi heard these words, she took heart of grace and went up to Ni'amah, and her lord, when he saw her rise to meet her. When he saw her rise to meet her, and strained her to his bosom, and both fell to the ground, fainting. And her lord, when he saw her, no, that's correct. It was missing a comma. And her lord, when he saw her, rose to meet her, and strained her to his bosom, the one he doesn't have, because he's a man. And both fell to the ground, fainting. Yes, that makes better salient sense. As soon as they came to themselves, the Caliph's sister said to them, Sit ye down, and take we counsel for your deliverance from this, your strait. And they answered, O our lady, we hear and obey, it is thine to command. Quoth she, By Allah, no harm shall befall you from us. Then she bade her handmaids bring meat and drink, which was done, and they sat down and ate till they had enough, after which they sat drinking. I've burnt my lips, if you're wondering why I keep licking more. I've actually burnt them really badly, and they're all really sore and kind of crusty. No kisses for anyone. My poor lips. Been burning them a lot in the last few weeks. I don't know what that's about. It's odd. This is probably about the 5th time I've burnt my mouth. The skin's very sensitive too. Oh, wilting little violet flower. Oh, looks like that storm's moved off somewhere. Further down in the southeast. Well, I was hoping it might cool the air, but it looks like we're not going to get it now. Not here anyway at Holland Park. Right, where were we? And they answered, O our Lady, we hear and obey, 'tis thine to command. Quoth she, By Allah no harm shall befall you from us. Very protective woman, reminds me of myself. Then she bade her handmaids bring meat and drink, which was done, and they sat down and ate till they had enough, after which they sat drinking. Then the cup went round amongst them, and their cares ceased from them. But Niamah said, Would I knew how this will end. The princess asked, O Niamah, dost thou love thy slave, Naomi? And he answered, Of a truth it is my passion for her, which hath brought me to this state of peril for my life. Then said she to the damsel, O Naomi, dost thou love thy lord, Niamah? And she replied, O my lady, it is the love of him which hath wasted my body and brought me to evil case. Rejoined the princess, By Allah, since ye love each other thus, may he not be who would part you. Be of good cheer, and keep your eyes cool and clear. At this they both rejoiced, and Naomi called for a lute, and when they brought it, she took it and tuned it and played a lively measure which enchanted the hearers, and after the prelude sang these couplets. When the slanderers cared but to part us twain, we owed no blood debt could raise their ire, and they poured in our ears all the din of war, and aid failed and friends when my want was dire. I fought them hard with mine eyes and tears, with breath and sword, with the stream and fire. Then Naomi gave the lute to her master, Niamah, saying, Sing thou to us some verse. So he took it, and playing a lively measure, intoned these couplets. Full moon, if unfreckled, would favour thee, and sun uneclipsed would reflect thy blee. I wonder, but love is of wonders full, and ardour and passion and ecstasy. How short the way to my love I fare, which from her faring so long I see. Now when he had made an end of his song, Naomi filled the cup and gave it to him, and he took it and drank it off. Then she filled again and gave the cup to the Caliph's sister, who also emptied it, after which the princess in her turn took the lute and tightened the strings and tuned it and sang these two couplets. Grief, cark and care in my heart reside, and the fires of love in my breast. My wasted form to all eyes shows clear, for desire my body hath mortified. How much is left? Just enough for another cup. Half a cup, but it's a big mug, so L'chaim, people of Earth. Then she filled the cup and gave it to Naomi, who drank it off and, taking the lute, sang these two couplets. O to whom I gave soul which thou torturest, and in vain I'd recover from fair unfaith. Do grant thy favours my care to cure, ere I die, for this be my latest breath. And they ceased not to sing verses and drink to the sweet sound of the strings, full of mirth and merriment and joy and jollity, till behold, in came the commander of the faithful. Oh, I'm wrong. Just saw a big flash of forked lightning. So it's here. Mama loves storms, doesn't she, Charlie? Yes, she does. This is like the Lahaina disaster is almost 2 days shy of turning 3, so oh yes, lots of lightning. Thor and Odin are here, Charlie. Thor and Odin. Now when they saw him, they rose and kissed the ground before him. And he, seeing Naomi with the lute in her hand, said to her, O Naomi, blessed be Allah, who hath done away with thee sickness and suffering. Then she looked at Niama, who was still disguised as, then he looked at Niama, who was still disguised as a woman, and said to the princess, O my sister, what damsel is this by Naomi's side? She replied, O commander of the faithful, thou hast here a handmaid, one of thy concubines, and the bosom friend of Naomi, who will neither eat nor drink without her. And she repeated the words of the poet. Two contraries, and both concur in opposite charms, and charms so contraried by contrast lovelier show. Quoth the Caliph, by Allah omnipotent, verily she is as handsome as Naomi, and tomorrow I will appoint her a separate chamber beside that of her friend, and send her furniture and stuffs, and all that befitteth her, in honour of Naomi. Then the princess called for food and set it before her brother, who ate and made himself at home in their place and company. Then, filling a cup, he signed to Naomi to sing, so she took the lute after draining 2 of them and sang these 2 couplets. Since my toper friend in my hand hath given 3 cups that brim and bubble, ere since I've trailed my skirts throughout night for pride, as though, Prince of the faithful, I were thy prince. The Prince of True Believers was delighted, and filling another cup gave it to Naomi and bade her sing again. So, after draining the cup and sweeping the strings, she sang as follows. O most noble of men in this time and stound, of whom none may boast he is equal found. O matchless in greatness of soul and gifts, O thou chief, O thou king, amongst all renowned. Lord, who dealest large boons to the lords of earth, whom thou vexest not, nor dost hold them bound. The Lord preserve thee and spoil thy foes, and ne'er cease thy lot with good fortune crowned. It's weird, you know, I feel almost on the brink of tears and I don't know why. It's just hit me like, smashed me. It's probably all the negative ions in the atmosphere right now. I'm feeling very Yeah, I have to work it through, people do. Let it go, let it go. Now when the Caliph heard these couplets, he exclaimed, By Allah, good, by Allah, excellent. Verily the Lord hath been copious to thee, O Naomi. How clever is thy tongue, and how dear is thy speech. And they ceased not their mirth and good cheer till midnight, when the Caliph's sister said to him, Give ear, O Commander of the Faithful, to a tale I have read in books of a certain man of rank. And what is this tale, quoth he? Quoth she, Know, O Prince of the Faithful, that there lived once in the city of Kufa a youth named Ni'amah, son of Al-Rabi'a, and he had a slave girl whom he loved and who loved him. They had been reared in one bed, but when they grew up and mutual love get hold of them, fortune smote them with her calamities, and time, the tyrant, brought upon them his adversity and decreed separation unto them. Thereupon, designing and slanderous folk enticed her by sleight forth of his house, and stealing her away from his home, sold her to one of the kings for 10,000 dinars. Now the girl loved her lord even as he loved her. So he left kith and kin and house and home and the gifts of fortune, and set out to search for her. And when she was found, he devised means to gain access to her, and her name was Naomi, like this slave girl. But the interview was short. They had not been long in company when in came the king, who had bought her of her kidnapper and hastily ordered them to be slain, without doing justice by his own soul and delaying to inquire into the matter before the command was carried out. Now what sayest thou, O Commander of the Faithful, of this king's wrongous conduct? Indeed, the sky's a very pale shade of orange, not orange, tangerine. The lightning is very close. I just saw Fort Lightning. Hope we don't get cut off because I really do want to finish this story tonight. I really do. It's a lovely story, but I'm kind of done. Can you tell? Yes. Answered the Caliph, this was indeed a strange thing. It behooved that king to pardon when he had the power to punish. And he ought to have regarded 3 things in their favour. The first was that they loved each other. The second, that they were in his house and in his grasp. And the third, that it befitteth a king to be deliberate in judging and ordering between folk, and how much more so in cases where he himself is concerned. Wherefore this king thus did an unkingly deed. Then said his sister, O my brother, by the King of the heavens and the earth, I conjure thee, bid Naomi sing and hearken to that she shall sing. So he said, O Naomi, sing to me. Whereupon she played a lively measure and sang these couplets. Beguiled is fortune who her guile displays, smiting the heart, bequeathing thoughts that craze, and parting lovers whom she made to meet, till tears in torrent either cheek displays. They were, and I was, and my life was glad, while fortune often joyed to join our ways. I will pour tear flood, will rain gouts of blood, thy loss bemoaning through the nights and days. Now, when the commander of the faithful heard this verse, he was moved to great delight, and his sister said to him, O my brother, whoso decideth in aught against himself, him it behoveth to abide by it, and do according to his word. And thou hast judged against thyself by this judgment. Then said she, O Nehemiah, stand up, and do thou likewise upstand, O Naomi. So they stood up, and she continued, O Prince of true believers, she who standeth before thee is Naomi the stolen, whom al-Hajjaj bin Yusuf al-Sakafi kidnapped and sent to thee, falsely pretending in his letter to thee that he had bought her for 10,000 gold pieces. And this other who standeth before thee is her lord, Ni'amah, son of al-Rabi'ah. And I beseech thee, by the honour of thy pious forebears, and by Hamzah and Ukail and Abbas, to pardon them both, and overlook their offence, and bestow them one on the other, that thou mayest win rich reward in the next world of thy just dealing with them. For they are under thy hand, and verily they have eaten of thy meat and drunken of thy drink, and behold, I make intercession for them, and beg of thee the boon of their blood. Thereupon quoth the Caliph, Thou speakest sooth. I did indeed give judgment as thou sayest, and I am not one to pass sentence and to revoke it. Then said he, O Naomi, say, be this thy lord? And she answered, Even so, O commander of the faithful. Then quoth he, No harm shall befall you. I give you each to other, adding to the young man, O Nehemiah, who told thee where she was, and taught thee how to get at this place? He replied, O commander of the faithful, hearken to my tale, and give ear to my history, for, by the virtue of thy pious forefathers, I will hide nothing from thee. And he told him all that had passed between himself and the Persian physician and the old nurse, and how she had brought him into the palace, and he had mistaken the doors, whereat the Caliph wondered with exceeding wonder, and said, Fetch me the Persian. So they brought him into the presence, and he was made one of his chief officers. Moreover, the king bestowed on him robes of honour, and offered him a handsome present, saying, When a man hath shown, like this man, such artful management, it behoveth us to make him one of our chief officers. The Caliph also loaded Nehemiah and Naomi with gifts and honours, and rewarded the old nurse, and they abode with him 7 days in joy and content, and all delight of life, when Nehemiah craved leave to return to Kufa with his slave girl. The Caliph gave them permission, and they departed, and arrived in due course at Kufa, where Nehemiah was restored to his father and mother, and they abode in all the joys and jollities of life, till there came to them the destroyer of delights and the sunderer of societies. Now when Amjad and Asad heard from Bahram the story, they marvelled with extreme marvel and said, "By Allah, this is indeed a rare tale." Thus passed that night, and when the next morning dawned, they mounted and riding to the palace, sought an audience of the king, who granted it and received them with high honour. Now, as they were sitting together talking, of a sudden they heard the townsfolk crying aloud and shouting to one another and calling for help. And the chamberlain came in to the king and said to him, "Some king hath encamped before the city. He—" Oh, sorry, child. I didn't mean to bump you. I'm very sorry. I didn't realise you were right there. I'm sorry. It wasn't deliberate, child. Mama loves you. Yes. Where were we? Some king hath encamped before the city, he and his host, with arms and weapons displayed, and we know not their object and aim. The king took counsel with his wazir Amjad and his brother Asad, and Amjad said, "I will go out to him and learn the cause of his coming." So he took horse and, riding forth from the city, repaired to the stranger's camp, where he found the king and with him a mighty many and mounted Mamelukes. When the guards saw him, they knew him for an envoy from the king of the city, so they took him and brought him before their sultan. Then Amjad kissed the ground before him, and lo, the king was a queen, who was veiled with a mouth veil. And she said to Amjad, "Know that I have no design on this your city, and that I am come hither only in quest of a beardless slave of mine, whom, if I find him with you, I will do you no harm, but if I find him not, then shall there befall sore onslaught between me and you." She's a bit bloodthirsty, that queen, isn't she? Don't think I like her. I mean, there's more peaceful ways to go about things. Whack 'em on the hand with a fan, for example. Don't need to chop off everyone's heads. Some people kind of deserve it though, but, civilization and all. Here comes the storm, people of Earth. Here comes the storm. Here comes the storm, and I say, that's all right. As long as nothing gets damaged and no one gets electrified, that's all right. It'll cool the air. Asked Amjad, "O Queen, what like is thy slave, and what is his story, and what may be his name?" Said she, "His name is Asad, and my name is Marjanah, and this slave came to my town in company of Bahram, a Magian, who refused to sell him to me. So I took him by force, but his master fell upon him by night and bore him away by stealth, and he is of such and such a favour." When Amjad heard that, he knew it was indeed his brother Asad whom she sought, and said to her, "O Queen of the age, Alhamdulillah, praised be Allah, who hath brought us relief. Verily the slave whom thou seekest is my brother." Then he told her their story and all that had befallen them in the land of exile, and acquainted her with the cause of their departure from the islands of Ebony, whereat she marvelled and rejoiced to have found Asad. So she bestowed a dress of honour upon Amjad, and he returned forthright to the king and told him what had passed, at which they all rejoiced, and the king went forth with Amjad and Asad to meet Queen Marjanah. When they were admitted to her presence and sat down to converse with her and with us pleasantly engaged, behold, a dust cloud rose and flew and grew till it walled the view. And after a while it lifted and showed beneath it an army dight for victory, in numbers like the swelling sea, armed and armoured Capapi, who, making for the city, encompassed it around as the ring encompasseth the little finger, and a bared brand was in every hand. Swords, people, swords, unsheathed swords ready to lop off heads. Just saying. When Amjad and Asad saw this, they exclaimed, Verily to Allah we belong, and to him we shall return. What is this mighty host? Doubtless these are enemies, and except we agree with this Queen Marjanah to fight them, they will take the town from us and slay us. There is no resource for us but to go out to them and see who they are. So Amjad arose and took horse and passed through the city gate to Queen Marjanah's camp. But when he reached the approaching army, he found it to be that of his grandsire, the lord of the isles and the seas and the 7 castles. And just put this up. And when he went into the presence, he kissed the ground, shall we kiss too, between his hands. I know, he did a very good kiss there, and delivered to him the message. Quoth the king, My name is King Gayor, and I come wayfaring in quest of my daughter Budur, whom fortune hath taken from me, for she left me and returned not to me, nor have I heard any tidings of her, or of her husband Kamar al-Zaman. Have ye any news of them? When Amjad heard this, he hung his head toward the ground for a while in thought, till he felt assured that this king was none other than his grandfather, his mother's father, whereupon he raised his head and, kissing ground before him, told him that he was the son of his daughter Budur, on hearing which Gayor threw himself upon him, and they both fell a-weeping. Then said Gayor, Praised be Allah, O my son, for safety, since I have foregathered with thee. And Amjad told him that his daughter Budur was safe and sound, and her husband Kamal al-Zaman likewise, and acquainted him that both abode in a city called the City of Ebony. Moreover, he related to him how his father, being wroth with him and his brother, had commanded that both be put to death, but that his treasurer had taken pity on them and let them go with their lives. Quoth King Gayor, I will go back with thee and thy brother to your father, and make your peace with him. So Amjad kissed the ground before him in huge delight, and the king bestowed a dress of honour upon him, after which he returned, smiling, to the king of the city of the Magians, and told him what he had learnt from King Gayar, whereat he wondered with exceeding wonder. Then he dispatched guest gifts of sheep and horses and camels and forage and so forth to King Gayor, and did the like by Queen Marjanah, and both of them told her what chanced, whereupon quoth she, I too will accompany you with my troops and will do my endeavour to make this peace. Meanwhile, behold, there arose another dust cloud, and flew and grew till it walled the view, and blackened the day's bright hue. And under it they heard shouts and cries and neighing of steeds, and beheld sword glance and the glint of levelled lance. When this new host drew near the city, and saw the two other armies, they beat their drums, and the king of the Magians exclaimed, "This is indeed naught but a blessed day. Praised be Allah, who hath made us of accord with these two armies, and if it be his will, he shall give us peace with yon other as well." Then said he to Amjad and Asad, "Fare forth and fetch us news of these troops, for they are a mighty host, never saw I a mightier." So they opened the city gates, which the king had shut for fear of the beleaguering armies. And Amjad and Asad went forth, and coming to the new host, found that it was indeed a mighty many. But as soon as they came to it, behold, they knew that it was the army of the king of the Ebony Islands, wherein was their father, King Kamar al-Zaman, in person. Now when they looked upon him, they kissed ground and wept. But when he beheld them, he threw himself upon them, weeping with sore weeping, and strained them to his breast for a full hour. Then he excused himself to them, and told them what desolation he had suffered for their loss and exile, and they acquainted him with King Gayur's arrival, whereupon he mounted with his chief officers, and taking with him his two sons, proceeded to that king's camp. I've never had a storm make me want to cry before. It's odd, isn't it, people of Earth? What am I going to cry about? Nothing. Everything. Anyway, it's weird because it's like thundering and lightning, but there's no rain. It's a bit odd. It's not raining. Not yet, anyway. Oh, Charlie, the world has gone mad. The world has gone mad, and Mama T has to survive it somehow. That is maddening just in that alone. How does one survive a world gone completely mad, inverted and perverted, with climate change and post-COVIDian epoch madness? And how does one survive it, Charlie? She says, "I don't know, Mama T. I'm a birdie who pulls out all my feathers. Don't ask me for advice." But she might be wiser than all of us humans after all, albeit featherless. Give us a kiss, Charlie. Love you. As they drew near, one of the princes rode forward and informed King Gayur of Kamar al-Zaman's coming, whereupon he came out to meet him, and they joined company, marvelling at these things, and how they had chanced to foregather in that place. Then the townsfolk made them banquets of all manner of meats and sweetmeats, and presented to them horses and camels, and fodder and other guest gifts, and all that the troops needed. And while this was doing, behold, yet another. Have I read this already, dear Goddess? Sometimes I repeat a bit. No, I don't think I have. Behold, yet another cloud of dust arose and flew till it walled the view, whilst earth trembled with the tramp of steed and tabors sounded like stormy winds. What you doing, funny bird? After a while, the dust lifted and discovered an army clad in coats of mail and armed cap up high, but all were in black garb, and in their midst rode a very old man, whose beard flowed down over his breast, and he also was clad in black. When the king of the city and the city folk saw this great host, he said to the other kings, Praised be Allah, by whose omnipotent command ye are met here, all in one day, and have proved all known one to the other. But what vast and victorious army is this, which hemmeth in the whole land like a wall? They answered, Have no fear of them. We are 3 kings, each with a great army, and if they be enemies, we will join thee in doing battle with them, were they 3 times as many as they now are. Meanwhile, up came an envoy from the approaching host, making for the city. So they brought him before Kamar al-Zaman, King Gayor, Queen Marjana, and the king of the city, and he kissed the ground and said, My liege lord cometh from Persia land, for many years ago he lost his son, and he is seeking him in all countries. If he find him with you, well and good, but if he find him not, there will be war between him and you, and he will waste your city. Friendly, not? Rejoined Kamar al-Zaman, It shall not come to that, but how is thy master called in Ajam land? Answered the envoy, He is called King Shahriman, lord of the Khalidan islands, and he hath levied these troops in the lands traversed by him whilst seeking his son. Now when Kamar al-Zaman heard these words, he cried out with a great cry and fell down in a fainting fit, which lasted a long while, and anon came to himself. He wept bitter tears and said to Amjad and Asad, Go ye, O my sons, with the herald, salute your grandfather and my father, King Shahriman, and give him glad tidings of me, for he mourneth my loss, and even to the present time he weareth black raiment for my sake. Then he told the other kings all that had befallen him in the days of his youth, at which they wondered, and, Charlie, going down with him from the city, yes, it's your claws, Charlie, repaired to his father, whom he saluted, and they embraced, and fell to the ground, senseless for excess of joy. They're very passionate people, are they not? Nothing wrong with that, people of earth. Passion and true emotions and sweetness and authenticity are always welcome in Titania's realm. And when they revived after a while, Kamar al-Zaman acquainted his father with all his adventures, and the other kings saluted Shahriman. Then, after having married Marjana to Asad, they sent her back to her kingdom, charging her not to cease correspondence with them. So she took leave and went her way. Moreover, they married Amjad to Bustam, Bahram's daughter, and they all set out for the city of Ebony. And when they arrived there, Kamar al-Zaman went in to his father-in-law, King Armanus, and told him all that had befallen him and how he had found his sons, whereat Armanus rejoiced and gave him joy of his safe return. Then King Gayor went in to his daughter, Queen Budur, and saluted her and quenched his longing for her company. And they all abode a full month's space in the city of Ebony. After which the king and his daughter returned to their own country, and they took with them Amjad and returned home by easy marches. And when Gayor was settled again in his kingdom, he made his grandson king in his stead. And as to Kamar al-Zaman, he also made Asad king in his room over the capital of the Ebony Islands, with the consent of his grandfather, King Armanus, and set out himself with his father, King Shahriman, till the two made the islands of Khalidan. Then the lieges decorated the city in their honour, and they ceased not to beat the drums for glad tidings a whole month. Nor did Kamar al-Zaman leave to govern in his father's place, till there overtook them the destroyer of delights and the sunderer of societies, and Allah knoweth all things. Or whatever you want to call the energy creator. This is all that hath come down to us of the story of Prince Amjad and Prince Asad, and Allah alone wotteth the truth, knows the truth. But not less excellent than this tale is the tale of Junya, the Seaborn. It's the next story, but I've done enough for today. But look, people of Earth, we're coming close to the end of the book. So, this last video I thought would only be 30 minutes in duration. It was 1 hour and 12 minutes, so it was longer than I anticipated to read 6 pages, but I don't think I segued much. So that's it, 6 pages is around about an hour. So I must remember that for future reference, how long it takes. And not that it matters really in the broad scheme of things, because I break these videos up and take a break, or sometimes I get blipped off, or however it manifests. But I hope you enjoyed that story. It had a happy ending. All the kings and all the king's sons were reunited and lived happily ever after until the sunder of societies separated them once and for all from this dimension and carried them forth into the next. And so it is, people of Earth. Anyway, wherever you are, the time is currently 7:25 p.m. on the 22nd of January, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy the storm and the cooling of the air. I think it's past us though. There was lots of lightning flashes and thunder, and it's just gone. But it might circle back if we're lucky, and we might even get rain. That would be nice. So, God has blessed you all. Have a beautiful day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the space-time continuum on planet Earth, and stay cool till after school. Bye for now.